Edward Donald is one of the most efficient investigation officers. His wife died 6 years ago while giving birth to his only daughter, Sophie. He didn't marry after her death, and he dedicated himself to taking care of his daughter. The story began when Edward woke up one night to a phone call from his workmates. They informed him of a murder and told him that he must reach the crime scene now. He changed his clothes and made sure that his daughter Sophie was asleep, and he got ready to leave. He reached the crime scene, which was in a large compound city, and saw that the police cars had reached the place before he did. The crime scene was an apartment on the ground floor, surrounded by a garden. It seemed really easy for anyone to get into such a house. The first thing that came to his mind was that the crime had been committed for the purpose of robbing the place. He saw it that way, a luxurious house in a large compound city full of expensive objects, surely a tempting target for any thief. The medical examiner's assistant shook his head, saying, "No, the crime isn't for the purpose of robbery." When Edward entered the apartment and reached the room in which the dead body was lying, it was full of blood. The murder had been committed brutally. Edward has been an investigation officer for many years, and he has seen a lot of murders, but only this time he wasn't able to look at the dead body because it was of a 10-year-old child. The information he got after some investigations is that the apartment in which the murder had taken place was occupied by a man and his 2 sons, Adam and Martin. Adam was 7 years old, while Martin was 10. And their mother died a year ago after the house had been on fire. It seemed that the apartment had a problem because many fires had happened in it, and the liable gas company seemed to implement the maintenance for the place carelessly. The man has filed a reparations lawsuit against the company, and the company offered him money in return for waiving the lawsuit, but he refused. So maybe the company had tried to push the man to accept, and maybe they had threatened him. But could this lead them to murder him? That's too far. A sergeant called at him, making him lose his train of thought. The sergeant pointed at another room whose door was open. Inside the room, there was another dead body. A man was brutally murdered and hanged on the ceiling from his neck by a long rope. Beneath his dead body, there was black dust similar to cemetery dust. The whole thing seemed to be a retaliation committed by some brutal people. Suddenly, something caught Edward's attention. The bloody footprints of a child. A footprint stopped in front of the closet. He wondered how did none of the investigators notice this. Edward approached the closet and opened it, expecting to see another dead body, but instead found a living boy inside, trembling and holding his breath. Edward got him out of the closet and cuddled him. He tried to comfort him to make him feel safe and tell the story. He took the boy to the office room and sat with him alone. The boy became calm, quiet, and unconcerned, but he continued to look around the room.
"What's your name, sweetheart?"
My name is Adam.
You have seen what happened, Adam, haven't you? Don't worry, I know you're sad about what happened to your dad and brother, but you have to tell—
I'm not sad. They deserve what happened to them.
What did you just say?
I didn't love them. None of them loved me.
A crazy idea began to come to Edward's mind. Could Adam be the criminal? The nature of Edward's work makes no one above suspicion. However, he kicked the idea out of his mind. It's impossible that a child commits such a murder, and the kid is too weak to carry the body of a grown man and hang him from his neck. Edward wanted to understand, so he continued asking questions.
Why didn't you love Martin? Wasn't he your brother and you used to play together?
No, I didn't used to play with him. I used to play with Bigo. And even Bigo recently I became afraid of him.
Who is Bigo? Is he your friend?
Yes, I told Mom and Dad much about him and they used to not believe me and call me a liar. Bigo used to get taller and taller till he was reaching the ceiling, and he was so black.
Edward wasn't able to understand the boy's words. What kind of friend is that who is getting taller? It was as if the child was hallucinating or having an imaginative thought. However, he had to continue listening to him because he wanted to know anything that might lead him to the truth, so he asked Adam to tell him about the first time he saw Bigo. The boy said that one night he was asleep and suddenly he woke up to somebody covering him with a blanket. He thought that it was his father, but when he focused, he found a black creature with long hair. His hands were long, reaching the ground, his eyes were lit in the dark, and his nails were like hooves. The boy yelled and ran out of the room. He told his mom about what he saw, and she told him it might be a dream or something and to get back to his bed. When he returned to his bedroom, he found that the creature had disappeared. But when he got on the bed, he felt that something was under it. And when he looked, he saw the creature's hands getting out from under the bed. Bigo made the closet his favorite place. He used to sit inside it and knock on its door. Edward started to write down in his notebook that the criminal is a dark-skinned, enormous, tall, long-haired person. That's all he understood from what the kid told him. Edward got out of the office room and left Adam inside with the guards. He was trying to pull his thoughts together, an apartment on the ground floor in a compound city. People inside the compound city thinking that since there is a fence surrounding the city and there are guards in front of its doors, they can leave their windows open without worrying about anything. Since the guards didn't see or feel any person from outside the compound city, this criminal might be one of the neighbors or guards. While he was thinking, one of the sergeants came with a woman. The sergeant said that this woman is their neighbor. Her name is Mrs. Amanda. The first sentence the woman spit out was,
"I saw the murderer.
How did you see him?
I'm used to spending the night on my balcony, which is in front of Adam's room. The room's window was open, and I saw him standing inside.
Can you describe to me what he looks like?
He was tall, but when he walked towards the bedrooms, he seemed to be short."
What do you mean? Is he tall or short?
"Is this woman crazy?" This was the first question in Edward's mind while he was listening to this woman, because her words were contradictory. He took a statement from her and let her go. He then felt a terrible headache, so he went to the bathroom to wash his face, but he didn't stop thinking, can Amanda, their neighbor, be the murderer? He thought to himself, she might be trying to distract me by making the wrong statement. While he was thinking, he felt something move behind him. Additionally, the bulb's light became unstable. It kept turning on and off. He turned back quickly and saw a large shadow, and gradually the shadow's face and body features began to become visible. The creature looked horrifying. His hair was long, his hands were also long and reaching the ground, and his body wasn't that of a human. He started to move closer to Edward. When Edward woke up, he found himself lying on the bathroom floor, and there was nobody around. But he was able to remember everything he had seen. The giant shadow and the horrifying creature that was in front of him, his volume was changing, and 2 horns had popped up from his head. Edward wondered to himself whether the boy's words had affected him and made him hallucinate. It was definitely a dream, a terrible dream due to the exhaustion that he suffered from all day long, but he started to doubt that again. He got out of the bathroom and went to the office again to sit with Adam, who was holding a toy in his hand.
Adam, could you continue telling me about your friend Bigo?
At first, I was afraid of him, but when he started to play with me, I wasn't afraid of him anymore. Bigo loves the kids a lot, and he became my only friend. He played with me games nobody can imagine.
What games?
He was able to crawl on the walls and the ceiling. And when Martin annoyed me, Bigo used to hit him and sting him while he was sleeping. He was also able to set a fire without using matches or a lighter. Until one time when Mom entered the kitchen, he set her on fire. Since this accident, I became afraid of him, and I didn't like to play with him anymore.
But why did he do such a thing? Aren't you telling me that he is your friend?
Because he wanted me to go with him to his house and I didn't agree to do so. I was afraid because he told me that his house is under the ground.
And while Edward was investigating Adam, one of the sergeants came. He said that one of the security guards told him that his colleague was hovering around the house and he was spying on it, trying to hide from everybody. And when the crime took place, the security guard decided to turn him in. The first question that Edward asked was, "Is this person black and tall?" He asked this question hoping that this person had the same description so that the case would be solved. When he saw him, he found that the suspect was black and tall, but he was a normal guy, unlike the creature that Adam described. Edward asked him why he was going around this house many times while the father was absent and when the crime took place. But his answer was very rational. He said that his name was David and that he has been a security guard in this place for 5 years. And he told him that Adam's dad asked him to take care of the house while he was absent, especially after the fires that happened many times, because he was worried about the kids, and when the crime took place, he was at his place of service. Edward spent 1 hour investigating David, and it turned out that he was a kind guy and had nothing to do with the crime. But Edward had to take his precautions, and he ordered the sergeant to hold David till he could finish his investigation with Adam. He was sure that Adam had the key to the solution of this complex case. Adam said that since Bigo appeared in his life, his relationship with his family has turned bad, because when he tried to tell them about him, they used to call him a liar, and when Bigo broke anything in the house, they accused Adam of doing it. Until this morning, Bigo asked him for the second time to come to his house. But when Adam refused, Bigo started to get bigger. His facial expressions changed. He broke all the toys in the room, and he threatened him that he was going to kill his dad and his brother. Until the father entered the room. "Have you broken your toys again?"
It wasn't me. It was Bigo.
"Stop lying. You break your toys and you talk to yourself. Are you crazy?"
Dad, I swear to God, it's Bigo.
"Where is this piece of shit?"
He's right behind you.
He started to raise the father in the air and hit him in the ceiling and walls. Adam was screaming, and the father's body was all blood. Bigo gouged the father's eyes out and hanged him by the neck. And when Martin ran to see what was happening, Bigo attacked him and killed him. And he told Adam that he was the reason for everything that happened because if he had accepted to come with him, he wouldn't have killed his mom, his dad, and his brother. It was a call from Mrs. Sharon, his neighbor. She always used to sit with his daughter Sophie when he wasn't home.
Mr. Edward, there is some noise in your apartment.
What noise?
Your daughter Sophie, there is somebody with her in the apartment. I knocked on the door many times, but she didn't open the door. Can I use the key that you left with me to enter?
You certainly can. You don't need to ask. And please stay on the line with me.
Don't worry. She is fine and playing with the dolls.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a favor. I left her sleeping. Could you please stay with her till I come back home?
Of course.
Thank you a lot. Adam, you're saying that you have seen what happened, and your friend Bigo is the one who has done this to your father and your brother.
Yes, I got horrified because of what I saw, and I ran and hid in the closet till you came and opened it. But before that, Bego came to me inside the closet and told me that there was someone coming to you now to get you out of here. Tell him that his daughter would be my new friend. He must be with her now.
Edward got up and froze in his place. After he heard these words, he didn't know whether he should believe them or not. Could a child's imagination hit this level? And let this be true, this means that Sophie is in real danger. He ran quickly, leaving the guards, the sergeants, everyone, and everything. He jumped in his car and drove as quickly as he could. While he was driving, he got a call from one of the sergeants. He told him that the kid wanted to speak to him.
Hi sir, Bego tells you to not get yourself tired. Sophie agreed to come to his house. If she hadn't agreed, he would have done to you what he has done to my father.
Edward reached his apartment's door, and he was really afraid that when he opened the door, he might find that Sophie was not inside the apartment or see something he didn't want to see. He knocked on his neighbor's door and asked her,
Is Sophie with you?
No, she slept. She told me that she wanted to sleep then slept, and I checked on her from time to time.
He left her and ran to his apartment. The bed was empty and every corner of the house was empty too. The doll that Sophie always liked and hugged while sleeping wasn't there. Just now he was sure that what Adam said was true and that Bigo wasn't some sort of imagination. On the wall, there was a message written with blood. If you want her back, come and bring Adam with you. Edward felt paralyzed when he saw this message. He didn't know what to do. He was shocked, and thousands of thoughts crossed his mind. Where should he take Adam? How can he even reach the beast? He drove the car and went to Adam's home. All of Edward's partners noticed how tired, worried, and perplexed he seemed. He even thought of telling one of them to help him know what to do, but how can he tell them such a thing? He is sure that no one will believe him. One of the officers asked him where we should take the kid. Should we take him to an orphanage and summon him if we need him in the investigations?
No. The kid is going to stay with me.
Edward took Adam and they went home. However, he didn't know what to do next, but having Adam in front of his eyes is really important because Bigo may communicate with Adam again.
Is there any way that you could summon this Bigo?
No, he used to come when he wanted to and disappear when he wanted to.
How couldn't he take you to his world, unlike Sophie?
Bego doesn't take anyone, unless this person agrees to go with him.
Why Sophie? Why did you agree to go?
A time passed and Adam slept, but Edward kept awake and he was still thinking. How can he communicate with the underworld? How can he summon Bigo back to the world of humans again? There is just one way to do so. By seeking the help of a person who is specialized in underworld affairs. He opened his phone and began to surf the internet to find someone with these qualities. He saw many pages of many persons who claimed to be specialized in the underworld. But he was afraid that they may turn out to be scammers. He must find someone who can be trusted because it is a very sensitive case and there is no chance of trial and error. He went downstairs to the building's entrance and knocked on the property guard's room, opening the door with sleepy eyes and wondering why Edward had come at this hour of the night.
What is the matter, Mr. Edward?
Look, Douglas. Do you know a person who can call demons and communicate with creatures from the underworld?
But sir, what do you want a person like that for?
None of your business. You see, Douglas, I have a case where the suspect pretends to have knowledge of the underworld. So I want someone to ask him about these things to help me with the case. But he must be a real specialized person, not a scammer. Okay?
I knew someone from the old property that I worked in, and he was a holy man that everyone witnessed his miracles. He got a lot of demons out of the bodies of many haunted men and women. He also had a neighbor whose apartment was haunted by demons. But no demons dared to come to this apartment again, thanks to this man's help.
Are you sure, Douglas? Or are you just talking nonsense?
I saw what I'm telling you with my eyes, and I have no doubt of this man's abilities.
Okay, give me his address.
The next day, Edward took Adam and went to the place where Douglas had given him its address. It was an apartment on the second floor of an old building. They knocked on the door, and an old tall man opened. His hair was gray, and he had a long gray beard. He allowed them in, and Edward told him the whole story, starting with what the demon did to Adam's family and ending with what he did to his daughter. He pleaded for the man to help him save Sophie. But what the man said didn't comfort Edward. He told him that getting someone back from the underworld is not that easy, it is nearly impossible. But he promised him to try and do his best to get Sophie back. There is a way that he can open a gate between the two worlds, the world of humans and the world of demons. And by doing this, he might be able to summon the demon to the world of humans. After that, Adam will ask him to get Sophie back. The plan is to start all of this at 2 a.m. and end it at 2:30 a.m. The man will sit alone in a room, and Edward will write his full name on a piece of paper and spill 3 drops of his blood on it. He will place it on the threshold of the door, and a candle will be placed next to it. He will then close the door and turn off all the lights. At 2 a.m., Edward shall knock on the door 12 times. And open the door to take the piece of paper and the candle. After that, he shall spill some salt on the land and make a circle around him and Adam to make Bigo unable to reach them. By then, the gate between our world and the underworld will have opened, and whoever the demon they call will arrive in our world right away. Which brings us to Adam's role in this plan, calling Bigo. After that, Edward and Adam will have just 30 minutes to make Sophie come to their world. And here comes the role of the holy man. He's going to get out of the room and tell some mascots to block the demon from getting back to the underworld and burn him. But he warned them of a very important thing. They should not spend more than 30 minutes with the gate open, because this may cause some more demons and evil spirits to pass into our world, and if that happened, it would be uncontrollable. Before they left the holy man's house, he told them to wait for him to come to Edward's house by night.
Sir, are you gonna let me go with Bigo in order to get Sophie back?
No, Adam. Don't worry, I will never let him take any one of you. Nor you, nor Sophie.
After Sophie returns, can I still live with you? I'm really afraid of getting back to my house alone.
A few minutes before 2 o'clock, Edward and Adam were ready. Edward took the piece of paper and wrote his name, and he dropped 3 drops of his blood on it. Adam circled himself with the salt. Edward put the piece of paper in front of the door. When it was 2 o'clock, Edward knocked on the door 12 times. He then opened the door and took the piece of paper and the candle, and as soon as he shut the door, Edward felt very cold. Saw giant ghosts passing in front of him, and heard horrifying shrieks. He ran quickly to jump inside the salt circle and be with Adam. When they both entered the salt circle, Adam called Bigo.
Bigo, come and bring Sophie with you. If you get Sophie back to her father, I'll go with you. Bigo.
Bigo appeared in front of them with his frightening appearance and his shining eyes, and the place behind him seemed to turn into a place different from Edward's house.
Let Sophie come. Bigo, please.
Suddenly, Sophie appeared, but her face was pale and strange, and her eyes were black, as if she had transformed. Edward was shocked, and he didn't know what to do. Time was about to hit 2:30 a.m. How did time pass so quickly? At this point, the holy man got out of the room and started to tell some spells mysteriously. Bigo started to scream strongly and horrifyingly. Sophie fell to the ground while trembling. The fire was set all over the place and surrounded this creature from every side. Some parts of him started to vanish. Sophie started to get up from the land.
Sophie, give me your hand. Come on, sweetie.
She tried her best to reach her father's hand, but Bigo picked her up by her neck. And her skin changed again and her eyes turned black. She seemed to get transformed again.
No!
What happened? Where has my daughter gone?
Your daughter no longer belongs to our world. He made her like him. And now, both of them have met their destiny.
Edward excused himself from investigating the case after losing his daughter because he couldn't tell his partners the truth. They might have called him crazy if he had told them that the killer was a demon from the paranormal world. The police investigated the case for many months, but they didn't manage to find out anything. And at last, the case was filed against persons unknown. Adam lived with Edward in his house after both of them had lost their families and become completely alone. Perhaps they became compensation for each other for the many things and people both of them had lost. And perhaps their existence together will be a gateway for another demon from the paranormal world.
Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and become a member of the Midnight Screams family. Also, don't forget to share and like with your family and friends. Oh yes, and if you have a horror story or other terrifying experience, you can send it to subscribersstories2023@gmail.com. It can also be found in the description below. Wait for us every Sunday and Wednesday with a new animated story. Be sure to activate the bell button to receive all the updates. We love you so much, and we hope you have pleasant nightmares.